If you pay attention during the whole episode, you can see that Ayanokoji has not removed his bandage, even though the current timeline should be 3 months after the incident with Hosen. In the light novel, it never specified when exactly Ayanokoji removed the bandage on his left hand, but it was never mentioned again after the uninhabited island exam was announced. Ayanokoji took it off after his conversation with Sudo in the manga, and a stabbing wound usually took a few weeks for the skin to be healed, so Ayanokoji still wearing a bandage in July is actually quite strange. However, the way the anime makes use of this bandage is actually really well done. Whenever someone talks about Hosen or the 20 million bounty, you can notice that the scene will change focus toward Ayanokoji's left hand, and this is actually a really simple way to tell the watchers what Hosen had done to Ayanokoji. By keeping his hand inside the bandage, it keeps us from forgetting the knife incident, and also tells us that the problem is not yet over. This is one adaptation that I believe the anime did better than the light novel. Even though it is not accurate, it is just simply better to portray what the characters tried to convey. The same thing could be said about Hosen's crazy laugh at the end of the episode. Not only does it show how much he looks forward to fighting, but it also gives him more character as someone who enjoys a strong opponent, and not just some money-chasing bastard. For a note, the scene between Hosen Ichika and Tsubasa was supposed to happen right after the first-year meeting in the light novel, but this episode moved their scene to the end of the episode, maybe because Hosen's absolute cinema pose is a really good stopping point to close the episode. If you compare episode 7 with the previous episodes, you probably notice that this episode has way more stable pacing and steady explanation. The cause of this upgrade is no other than the amount of source material that they adapt in this episode. The previous 2 episodes adapt around 1/3 of volume to second year arc, but this episode only covers around 70 pages of the light novel, or 30 pages less than usual. This is quite a surprise because I always believed volume to second year arc would only get 3 episodes. But at least this confirms that we will not get volume 4.5 being adapted in season 4. Even though it's a real shame, we will not yet see Sakura's swimsuit in this season. At least we got a few small scenes getting adapted, such as Ayanokoji's little interaction with his group, or Ichika offering her underwear. However, these little scenes are the things that made volume to second year arc feels warm and joyful, because you know that the students in ANHS are not all about plotting, or constantly act as if they are going to die if they are not manipulating each other 24/7. After all, they are just students, and they enjoy hanging out or act like a fools once in a while. These kinds of scenes were usually skipped in episode 5, but since there are not a lot of things to adapt in episode 7, we managed to see Sakura get panicked knowing someone else is interested in Ayanokoji. I can say that the pacing is even better compared to the previous episode, and there is almost no skip content or rushed explanation. However, it's a bit disappointing that this episode didn't include a little scene where Tsubaki was alone with Ayanokoji, because in the light novel, Tsubaki actually confronts Ayanokoji when he is about to pay for his groceries, and she managed to seal his way to escape. Tsubaki's short story is also potentially important for future plot, but it's still just a theory, so it's okay to not really flesh out that scene. As the compensation for that scene, we got shown how Tsubaki acts like the smart one when it was Utomiya who was supposed to confront Ayanokoji, and while she kept her face as uninterested as usual, it's clear that she dominated the conversation. This episode is the first time we actually see Tsubaki in action, and she actually shows that she is smart through her actions, not from statements or someone glazing her. A little detail where Ayanokoji notices Tsubaki waiting in the cafe is also a plus point from this episode. Even though it clearly happened, they didn't really point it out or make a comment about it. They just show her watching, and later connect it with the next scene, making it that kind of show where the animation shows you what happened, instead of just telling as if it came out of nowhere. The animation and the direction of this episode are clearly the best so far in season 4. We already saw the close-up technique to the eyes before, but this episode explores different techniques such as the fading transition between Ichika and Tsubasa, or how Kushida's eyes suddenly darkened when she revealed her true nature. I cannot say it's a new thing in the anime industry, but it was really an improvement for season 4. Speaking of Kushida and Yagami, there is actually an important scene that got skipped during their meeting. When they came to the cafe, Yagami actually wrote their order, and Kushida complimented his neat handwriting. It will be important later, but not really that important to make a fuss about. The whole scene is important, but I guess Kushida is the real show stealer in this scene. It's been a while since we saw Kushida's true personality, so the sudden change gives quite a shock with the new art style. Kushida's voice actor also plays it well with both of Kushida's voices, whether it's the evil one or the cute one. However, speaking of voice, Hosen's voice actor really stole the show ever since his debut. Compared to Yagami or Utomiya, who are not really dominant, his character really stood out in Season 4, and his voice enhanced it, and made him really iconic. Anyway, since there is not a lot of content to cover and the quality improved, I guess that's all I can say about the new episode. The next episode is the last one before we officially enter the uninhabited island exam, and believe it or not, the expectation already goes higher than we ever expect.